But, they do say, look, if you are using dive equipment, you've got limited air, or if you're just gulping a bit of air, it enables you to go a little bit further and faster.
I noticed I'm just looking at you thinking, I can't believe you're really trying to sell this to me.
Yeah, well... Welcome to episode 11 of Boat Nuts, the podcast about all things boaty. This is Hugo and Alex, editor of Motorboat and Yachting magazine, and I'm Alex Smith, deputy editor. Now, Hugo, where are we today?
Today we are down at Swanwick Marina near Southampton on a very lovely Azimuth 68 with some quite cool features, and this is one of my favourite ones. Look at that little privacy screen, and in fact, now the rain is coming on, it provides a little bit of shelter.
That's pretty cool if you berth stern to at a Mediterranean marina, isn't it?
Very cool. Gives you a bit of extra privacy, a bit of extra shelter, all part and parcel. And this particular boat normally sells for 3.28 million, but because it's a stock boat, they've got a special offer on it for 2.99 million ex-VAT.
Good value, a lot of boat for the money,
Certainly
but the boat we're looking at today is significantly more affordable even than that. We are talking about a Brunswick brand, been around for a little bit, the Navan S30.
Yeah, really interesting boat actually. A lot more interesting than I initially gave it credit for when I first saw the rendering. So lots to talk about there.
Yeah, and then we're going to move on to the product of the day, which I completely forget. What was that?
SeaBike. The
SeaBike, yeah, sorry, the SeaBike. Yeah. I've written a little bit about that. It's quite an interesting little water sports accessory for boaters.
So hilarious.
Yeah, well, let's see how we feel about it.
Indeed.
And the issue of the day, I've forgotten that as well. What is that?
Antifouling.
Antifouling.
You're good at this. Good job. Somebody knows what they're talking about.
Can you tell I've never really antifouled a boat? Maybe I'm not quite that interested, but I guarantee Hugo, as a boat owner, has a lot of experience.
Bore for Britain about antifouling. It's something very close to my heart, and it makes a lot of difference to your boat, and particularly the fuel efficiency of your boat.
Fantastic.
So really important stuff.
Well, let's stop cocking things up, head inside, and get talking, shall we? Our boat of the week then is the Navan S30, a boat that I've not personally seen, but I believe is kind of entering that kind of walk-around sports boat sector popularised by the likes of Axopar and Saxtor. That's right, isn't it?
Absolutely. So it is the Brunswick Group's new brand that they created, presumably specifically to try and counteract this wave of new boats, particularly those sort of Scandinavian brands, as you say, like Saxtor and Axopar and Nimbus, who've all piled in with these sort of vertical bows, walk-around decks, big outboard power, enclosed or open, and they've come to the party pretty late. They're the world's biggest boat builder. They build loads of different brands already. They've got Boston Whaler and Bayliner. They make Mercury engines. So they're a big force. So it's surprising that it took them this long to grasp that particular nettle. And I think what was really interesting was whether that was going to be a disadvantage because they're so late to the party that the space is already filled, or whether it's actually an upside because they can learn from what everybody else has done and somehow try and better it and incorporate all the best bits of the boats that have entered already.
Oh, that's an interesting notion because, I don't mean to steal your best lines and put you on the spot, but didn't you mention to me Boston Whaler build quality and Nimbus feel, 2 layouts on a single hull? It's all positive, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it sort of has played into the hands and it sort of hasn't. It'll be interesting to see where it actually leads to in the end, because I think initially there was a little bit of resistance from some dealers to take on yet another brand, and was there really room in the market for another player? And
because you were saying this Navan's been around for like 2.5, 3 years.
It's been around for at least 2 years. I think I saw it in Dusseldorf 2023 originally. So it's taken this long
for it's been a bit slow.
Well, I don't know about certainly in the UK. Somebody has only recently taken on the brand, and that's Land and Sea. So actually based in Abersoch. They're now, I think, looking to open a South Coast place too. And they took a little bit of a gamble on it because in Abersoch, that's where Ideal Boats are based, and that's where Saxtor's sort of primary dealer is. And they've been hugely successful. And they took on this brand and brought in a couple of stock boats, and within a couple of weeks, they were both sold. And having seen it, I can see why now. I was really impressed. It doesn't feel like just another Me Too boat. It's very much got its own flavour, its own style, its own characteristics. It's quite a bold look. It's actually got an over vertical hull, so it sort of sticks out. It's almost like it's got a sort of chin first.
Look at the hill chin.
Yeah, I mean it really does. It sort of sticks out in front of the boat. But it gives it a certain sort of, just confidence and solidity about it. Is that I know what I'm doing. I've got a chin and I'm going to make the most of it. And the build quality feels really strong. Nice, solid quality moldings, all the kind of, the little stuff like, the latches and the hinges, which often let boats down. Let's face it, the moldings can be nice, but if you get a slightly cheap latch that feels a bit flimsy or it's a bit sharp on the backside, or the hinges just don't feel robust enough to last a lifetime. And this really does. So tick on that point. And then it's got some really interesting ideas to it as well. So first up is the fact that there are two separate boats. There's the S30 and the C30. They both use the same hull. It's a stepped hull, quite a nice deep V. But then rather than just putting a wheelhouse on the deck and effectively it being the same boat and one's got glass around it and one hasn't, they've done a completely different deck layout for the C30. So it's got a fully enclosed wheelhouse. That too has got some nice ideas. So rather than having either just a stern door or two matching side doors, it's got completely different setup. It has asymmetric design. So you've got a much bigger door on the starboard side that opens wider and a bit further back. On the port side, you've got a helm door next to the helm. And then at the back, you've got a window that lifts up. You've got two big sunroofs overhead. You've got a completely different layout with a kind of second small galley inside the wheelhouse, as well as a wet bar outside it in the aft cockpit. So they've really gone to town. They haven't just copied what other people have done. They've come up with their own concept and executed it and built it really well.
Have they come up with some relatively ingenious cabin solutions? Because obviously Eliza Saxbar and Axopar,
it's easy to muddle.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? I don't think the bosses of those respective firms will much appreciate
They won't be happy, no.
But they do have some outstanding solutions for the cabins.
They've absolutely got that. And particularly, so I was testing the S30, which is the open boat, and they've got a really clever solution there. So they've got effectively 3 rows of seats. You've got 2 swiveling helm seats that can turn and face backwards. You've got a forward-facing, quite tall bench in the middle row. And what I like about that is you feel really nice and secure. It's got proper nice little armrests that come down either side of it. Yeah. So you feel sort of, nicely retained within that space. It's beautifully upholstered, nice sort of diamond stitching. The actual upholstery is nice. Stainless steel arms, little cup holders either side of it. And then there's a 3rd row of seats behind. So when you're underway, all the passengers are effectively facing forward.
That's good.
But then that central, slightly raised bench actually tips over. It sort of folds over and then down so that it faces the transom bench to make a really nice kind of 6-man dinette, 2 benches facing each other across the table. And underneath what was the bench, by opening it up, you then reveal a really comprehensive full-width wet bar with fridges and cooking hobs and sinks and cutting boards if you're into sort of fishing or whatever, but really like a proper outdoor galley rather than just a sort of token.
I'm looking at it now. It's serious, isn't it? Proper piece of kit.
It's really clever. And again, all that sort of mechanism, quite often you see boats with folding backrests and it's all a bit sort of creaky and, it doesn't work terribly well. You need 2 people to do it. This, press 1 button, folds over, feels super robust, super solid, and a really effective use of the space on board. So it's a 33-foot boat, nice size, full walk-around decks, big outboard power. You can have single or twins. The boat I tested had twin, I think it had the maximum possible ones. I think it had twin 300 Mercuries, and it went like off a shovel. It was properly good.
What, 50 knots plus?
Yeah, I mean, it's 53 knots flat out.
Wow.
But it just felt so robust and comfortable at that speed. Some boats start to feel a bit sketchy or shaky and things rattle around. Other thing, so you can have it all open boat or you can have it as a T-top. The T-top is the most solid, robust T-top I've ever come across.
Is it a fiberglass thing?
So fiberglass top, aluminium. I'm not sure if it's aluminium or steel, to be honest, because it was painted or powder coated, but really heavy duty, thick diameter supports. It didn't move an inch, and so many of those T-top designs that you and I have been on look great in the marina. You go out and when the whole sort of top is sort of bouncing around and flexing, it just looks a bit flimsy, and they're not going to break, but somehow it doesn't inspire you with full of confidence when you can see things flexing. And I don't know, this absolutely rock solid. Also means you got extra handholds around the boat. And again, they've really sort of gone to town on that. They haven't skimped on things like handholds. So all the way around the inside, the cockpit coamings, there are grab rails. You've got that super robust support for the T-top.
Have we got the ubiquitous fold-down bulwarks on this boat?
No, they don't have fold-down bulwarks. I don't believe so. And yeah, take it or leave it. Saxdor do them. They're a brilliant thing, lovely to have. I don't really miss them when they're not there. No, it's nice to have when they are there.
And it's a funny thing. I talked to a few readers, a few viewers, a few showgoers, and the consensus often seems to be that these fold-down bulwarks, they seem like a fantastic idea. You see them in a showroom or at a show. You put them on the water and you use them a couple of times, and then they pretty much never get deployed again. That seems to be just quite a common opinion.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a nice option to have. I wouldn't say no. But I don't miss them on the boats that don't have them, and that sort of doesn't feel like it's designed for them and doesn't really miss it. But it does mean you've got really nice, tall, secure bulwarks all the way around. You've got walk-around decks. It's not as deep in the bow as some because it's got quite a good cuddy cabin under there. The bow does feel a little bit more exposed than some of them. You sort of take a few steps up when you come sort of alongside the helm. You then have a couple of steps up onto the foredeck. And you have, nice little sort of sunbathing seating area there. Not as sort of secure and sociable as some of the other solutions that you get.
Presumably, though. So they want this to function as a proper weekender as well, do they?
Yeah, and that, of course, is the plus side. Because the deck is taller, you then have more space under that foredeck and a really good cabin area underneath that is a good size, really nicely equipped and finished. Got nice little touches in terms of the LED lighting, it's kind of subtle little strip lights, good quality fabrics, nice bit of natural light, separate heads compartment, really good size separate heads compartment with a little pull-out shower. So it is a genuine weekender. And it's just very nicely finished and usable. Yes, it's only a weekender realistically because you've only got a bed for two and not an awful lot of facilities on board, but very comfortable for a couple overnight.
That's interesting. So it looks great. It's really well built.
Yeah.
It's got a clever design.
Yeah.
It drives great.
Yeah, drives really well. It has got a stepped hull, and like a lot of stepped hulls, you need to be just a little bit careful that you don't go bananas in a corner because it's a very quick boat. And if you go into a tight turn at 50 knots, you will start to lose the back end a little bit. It will sort of skip a bit. Not crazily. It's not a hook that's going to chuck you all out of the boat, but you just need to be cautious that you don't have the engine trimmed too high up or the trim tabs too far down.
So you reckon it's got what it takes to make a bit of a dent in that sector, do you?
It's got enough to it. It should do. Whether it does or not is always a question mark, but it seems to have been selling well up in Abersoch. It's priced competitively. I wouldn't say it's any sort of cheaper than a Saxdor or an Axopar, but it's certainly on a similar par. I think the prices start at 134,000 ex tax, but that's with a single engine. I drove the one with the twin engine. It did just, felt properly quick and properly sturdy. Also rides very, very nicely. Part of that is the DP and the stepped hull. You got a nice flat ride, but it also, because it feels solid and robust, you feel more comfortable pushing it a bit harder, and into a head sea, cut the waves very nicely indeed. So yeah, solid performer, rides well, looks good, got some different things to offer. I think that's what I love about boats is it's not really as sort of black and white as one boat is better than another. It totally depends what you're looking for from a boat. And some people might prefer the Saxdor because it's got the fold down balconies. Some might prefer the Axopar because it's got a really nice sort of secure, sociable foredeck area where you can actually sit around rather than just sunbathe on it. But then some might prefer this because you've got a little bit of everything. You've got a better cabin down below. You've got a better heads compartment, but it will go equally well. So
yeah, and it doesn't hurt, does it, to have a boat in that sector with a different name? Because let's face it, every marina you go to, you're going to see an Axopar.
Yeah, that is a true fact. Yeah, and there are a lot of them around. Yeah, and having something a little bit different is quite pleasing. It's quite satisfying. You sort of feel like you're slightly the cognoscente. I've actually gone for a Navan. Oh, I don't know about Navan. Oh, come and have a look. You might just be surprised. So I'm pleasantly surprised. It feels like even if the market was pretty rammed, they've sort of elbowed their way in there and made a bit of extra space for themselves.
With something sufficiently similar, but also sufficiently different.
Yeah, there's enough different about it to make space for itself. And absolutely, in terms of quality and drive and design and everything else, they're absolutely right up there with the best of them. So yeah, fair play to them.
I've got something very different for you.
Go on.
Our product of the week.
Oh dear.
Is the SeaBike. Have you heard about this thing?
I have heard about it. I've seen pictures of it. I've even watched video clips, but you're going to have to explain exactly what it is to our listeners, because viewers, hopefully we can show them, but listeners, you're going to have to really explain.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What this is.
Right. Okay. Imagine you're on your boat, you want to go for a swim, but you want to swim faster than an Olympic swimmer without years of dedication and training.
Yeah, I'm definitely not doing that.
Yeah, what do you need? You need the SeaBike. It's based out of Cannes, I think, where they also operate like a kind of SeaBike scuba club. And we'll get to that in a second. But the idea of this thing is you've got a stick. Right. I make it sound more rudimentary than it is. But you've got a stick with some pedals on it and a belt that clips to your waist. And on the far end, beyond your feet, is a prop. And when you pedal, the prop goes round and it gives you extra pace. So you can use your arms in the conventional fashion.
So you swim like you're doing the crawl.
That's right.
Face down. I can't. I still can't do that. I never know when to breathe.
Are you drowning?
Yeah, I'm already drowning.
And then the prop is doing its thing.
So rather than kicking with your legs, you are pedaling away.
Pedaling. Yeah. And it's peculiar. I don't mind admitting. I looked at this and I thought, why? And then I read into it a bit more and I thought, well, actually, look, I've never spoken to a single sea swimmer who deemed that speed of swimming was important. That's not what it's about for them. But isn't it better if you can get more pleasure by going further and seeing more? And if you've got limited air, if you're a diver...
Transport, is it?
Well, you know, you can apparently swim at up to 4.2 knots. That's not bad, is it?
Sounds pretty speedy for swimming.
I would like, because I'm a tragic swimmer. I really am. So I'd quite like to experience that. And I'm going to get them to send me one if they will, so I can take it down the sea in Folkestone and have a little paddle about. I won't be on the local news at all.
Lining the White Cliffs of Dover, just pointing and laughing.
Yeah, there might very well be. But I quite like the fact that there are accessories that go with this. Now, I said in Cannes, they got this like SeaBike snorkel club. Right. So the idea is there's a small inflatable board with a hole in it for your face. Not dissimilar,
like a floating massage.
Kind of in a way, not dissimilar to a compact sup board that's been modified. So the idea is you grab hold of this snorkel board,
right?
Connect on your bike, you get pedaling, and you stick your face down through here, and off you go, and just look at the view with your little snorkel.
Fish are going to be looking up, laughing at you doing
so that. So that I quite like that idea. I'd like to have a go at that. That's interesting.
I was impressed by it. It does look a very neat piece of design, because it all packs down into a really handy little carry-all.
Yeah.
The strap for the carry-all is what becomes the belt.
That's cool.
You then link the two sort of bits of the central pole together.
Yeah.
The prop comes off, pedals come off. So it is a really compact little bag that it all fits into.
Yeah.
And then a couple of seconds later, and also not actually that expensive. I was pleasantly surprised.
No, it's about €290. Excellent VAT.
You can't really even buy an actual bike for that.
No, that's a round of mediocre cocktails at your local yacht club, isn't it?
Certainly it can. It
is, yeah. So why not invest in this? And look, it's easy to laugh at this sort of thing because it's so radically different. And because I guess you could look at the concept and think why, as we have done. But it's properly built, carbon fibre, titanium to keep the weight down. It's just 3 kilos.
Yeah. Okay.
So, this is proper bit of kit and properly designed, properly built. And also the fact it's completely mechanical, no heavy batteries, no expensive batteries. That's why you got the price, no need for charging.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice to use physical power.
Can't you just buy a pair of flins or flippers or whatever they call them? Doesn't that do the same thing and make you swim twice as fast with half the hassle?
I'll tell you what you can buy. I'm going to try to put it in context a little bit. and this ought to be in the SeaBike's favour. You know, we love the idea of the Sea-Bob, don't we?
Yeah.
And that's been upgraded with the F9. That's 21 kilos instead of 34 kilos, which is the predecessor. It's beautiful to look at. You know, you can upgrade it with extra power, extra battery, and you can get up to 60 minutes of fun with your Sea-Bob
and they're
F9.
Quite quick, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
12 or 14 knots or something.
But that's 10.5 grand.
That is more expensive,
and then,
to be fair.
It is. And you look at other variations on the theme, again powered, that enable you to get off your boat and into the water and to go faster and to do more. The Cuda Jet jetpack. Now, this is a brilliant bit of kit. It makes you look like a little superhero. You've seen it. You wear it on your back. Unbelievable. I love it. You can go 7 miles per hour. You just clip on the jetpack.
And that's probably underwater, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. They say you can go from storage to sea in less than a minute. So it's lighter, it's less bulky, and it's much cooler looking. It makes you look like a total hero.
Unlike the SeaBike, which makes you look like some slight, weird, surface-born creature.
Yeah, but the SeaBike's €290. Do you know how much the Cuda Jet is? £22,500. That's how much that is.
Okay, you've got to want to swim quite a lot to make that worthwhile.
Yeah, you have.
For me, swimming is the pleasure. I don't often go into the sea and think, I wish I could go a tiny bit faster and be pedaling something rather than swimming. Well, I swim like an old lady. I don't do little breaststrokes. My head well above. I look like a little turtle.
Yeah, that's right.
Flapping away. I just go in to cool down and have a nice dip. Yeah, because if only I went a little bit faster.
When they send me the SeaBike, I'll let you have a go and you can tell me what you think then. But they do say, look, if you are using dive equipment, you've got limited air. Or if you're just gulping a bit of air, it enables you to go a little bit further and faster.
I noticed. I'm just looking at you thinking, I can't believe you're really trying to sell this to me.
Yeah, well, I've got time for it. It seems like a lot of fun for not a lot of money. And let's face it.
Of how wrong can you go?
How wrong can you go for €290? Well, how many things have you bought in the past, particularly related to your boat, where you thought, what have I done here? And you've bought it, you've committed, but you're too generous to take it back.
That's a windsurfer or a nice water ski or something.
Well, I'll tell you what you'd also get, actually. I've been looking into these little portable mini tanks for sort of free diving.
Oh, there's little,
aren't they great? Yeah, just and you can recharge those with a hand pump. Yeah. Little litre bottles, 2 litre bottles, 4 litre bottles. A litre bottle, I keep getting for 10 minutes, apparently, for a little bit of free diving with no certification.
Well, that'd be useful for if you get something tangled around your props or your shaft, being able to dive under the boat with a knife and enough time to properly get in there and see what you're doing.
Really good, yeah. But you know what else that'd be useful?
That's a safety item, that is.
Hey?
What?
The SeaBike. You strap on the SeaBike. I'm not even messing with you, Hugo. I'm serious now. Stop it. And you pop one of those in your mouth. You're in
I would get over the fact that I could not coordinate enough to remember when to breathe and which side my face goes and all of that.
Well, look, I've got a lot of time.
It's not going to work with breaststroke, though, is it? You're going to look too ridiculous.
I don't know. I'm going to have to report back.
Go on then.
Either way, SeaBike, well done. Don't listen to Hugo. He's very rude. Please do send me one. I want to try it down here, folks, and we'll get it going on the south coast of England as well as in Cannes. It's got a lot of fun.
All over Twitter and Facebook within seconds.
That's right, because of the merit of it, not because of the absurdity.
Maybe.
Issue of the day. This is all about antifouling.
Yes.
And as I've intimated earlier, I've got to come clean right from the start. It's almost kind of a pun, isn't it, that? And admit I've never antifouled anything except my 58-foot narrowboat that I used to live on, and that was kind of just painting the whole thing with bitumen-based blacking.
Blacking? Is that an antifouling, or is it just a sort of protector?
It's a protector. It's as close as I've got. Well, that was quite a mission. It actually brought me and the missus a little closer together, because you dry dock it. You're in this old dry dock, and we have these pressure hoses each, and prep is of course key with all these things. We were blasting off the old rubbish, and they were coming in little bits, little sort of crustacean-y looking things and shellfish and things. And the spray just obliterated these things. We were all bits of shards of shell and bits of slime, bivalve and all sorts. But had a lovely time painting it back on for the next 3 days. So that's as close as I got to anti-fouling.
Use that stuff.
I damn it, ruining life, aren't we? We did get a little bit high on it, actually. It was quite extraordinary.
I am not in the lucky position as you. I've spent half my life under boats slapping on anti-fouling, and it's not a fun job.
But you're a bit of an expert on it, so we're going to lean on you right now. But let's just run through the basic types. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because as I've admitted, I'm not an anti-fouling expert. I'm not. Anti-fouling and me, they don't really
tariffs on you straight away, that's for sure.
They would. So you've got the slowly delivered biocide, which is essentially copper-based paint.
Essentially, the way it works is you have a combination of sort of biocide and algicide that either dissuades or kills or stops growth on your boat. So the things you're trying to stop, you've obviously got the sort of weed and the algae and the slime and the barnacles and the crustaceans that attach themselves to your hull and make a massive difference to performance and fuel efficiency. It is a really important thing. And you say what you like about anti-fouling, but the damage and the amount of extra fuel you burn and CO2 you put out if you have heavy fouling on your boat far offsets, I think, the
leaching of the biocide,
in my opinion. But there obviously are alternatives. So first up, traditional biocide or biocidal anti-fouling is a combination of these set within a paint matrix, and the whole point of the matrix is really that's the sort of delivery system. So you have the active biocides, which are held within this paint matrix that gradually either erodes or dissolves and lets out the active biocidal products that actually stops the fouling. So one of the key differences is how that particular paint matrix works. So you've got a self-eroding type, which is commonly known as sort of soft anti-fouling, and that gradually erodes, usually due to the motion of water past the hull.
Yeah.
You can have a true self-polishing copolymer, which is the copolymer is actually the sort of substrate, the matrix that gradually sort of dissolves, reacts with the water. I find that really, really effective because it doesn't rely so much on the movement of water past the hull. It just gradually sort of dissolves and again makes sure you've got that active biocide on the surface. Because where anti-fouling tends to fail is because effectively the active ingredients leach out of it, and then you get left with a kind of inactive sort of dead passive paint matrix that stops the fresh anti-foul, the sort of biocide reaching the surface and doing what it needs to do. So a really true copolymer works very, very effectively. So a hard anti-fouling is a similar kind of thing. It's just deliberately designed to be harder so that you can burnish it and polish it, and that tends to get used for racing sort of sailing boats and for powerful, fast, high-performance boats that need a really smooth surface and finish, because if you have too soft a one, it's going to wear off too quickly if it's a very quick boat. So you'll actually end up sort of stripping the anti-fouling off your boat. And then there are a sort of couple of new wave products, well, not so new. One is a very long-lasting one called a copper coat, which rather than having a paint matrix that sort of gradually erodes, it is a hard epoxy, and it actually uses that as a binder to hold copper granules itself. So rather than using copper oxide, which is sort of mixed up with the paint, it actually has copper granules set within this very hard epoxy surface. And because that is not leaching out of the paint, it is literally just bound within it. That is much more environmentally friendly because it doesn't leach the copper oxide out into the water. And the problem occurs where you get a buildup of copper oxide and algicide and biocides in the water itself, particularly in places like marinas and rivers. And in some places, I think even in the Baltic Sea, for instance, because you don't get a lot of tidal movement, you can get a buildup. So in some places, they have either drastically limited the amount of copper or even banned it in some places. But copper coat gets around that to a large degree because it doesn't leach out.
And reapplication times in terms of its
well, that's the massive benefit, and that tends to be why people do it, is because it is so much harder, and because it doesn't leach out, it lasts for sort of 10 years plus. So it's more expensive to apply because you've got to apply it on a properly smooth surface. So you either apply it to a brand new boat or you strip off all the old anti-fouling and then apply it. But crucially, you only have to do it every 10, 15 years rather than every year. And obviously the costs of both lifting your boat, buying new anti-foul and the hassle of applying it, big saving. And then the final one, which is kind of the new generation, which is a foul release coatings, which are usually silicon-based. And rather than using a biocide to harm or dissuade the growth from it, it's just a super slippery. It's a really odd stuff. It sort of feels slightly rubbery to the touch, but when it's in the water, it's super sort of high. Can't remember the hydrophobic, I think is the term.
Yeah.
And it feels incredibly slippery. And although you do get a little bit of growth, it's not so slippery that nothing ever attaches, but it's so smooth and slippery that it literally can just be brushed off. So in an ideal scenario, if you apply it perfectly, it will come off with the motion of your boat through the water.
Yeah.
And
But there's an issue with these if you keep your boat in a dry stack or up on the hard, because they need to be wet, presumably.
It slightly depends on the formulation. I think they are better, they're more effective, I believe, on a boat that is used fairly regularly, that stays in the water. They are quite picky about the application process. You know, you have to follow quite a strict set of rules in terms of timings and temperature, and you want a really nice smooth surface. I tried some on my boat, and I tried applying it while the boat was on the trailer, and it didn't work terribly well around the kind of, you know, the trailer wheels and so on.
Which brand was that?
So I tried something called F2, which is a relatively new brand. There are some very well-established ones like Hempel Silic One and International Intersleek. And whenever we've tested those, either on a panel or on boats that have had it applied, they've worked really, really well, better than expected. Mine was only partially successful, I think, because I didn't manage to apply it terribly well or terribly smoothly around the trailer wheels. But even where it is smooth in between, you can still brush off the barnacles using your fingers, literally. You know, you don't need to scrub or power wash. You can just push them off. And funnily enough, that we spoke about an Arxton 85 in a podcast or two ago. And that has been on the water for 2 years, and that had Intersleek applied to it. And that still looked remarkably clean. And the few tiny little growths that we could find, literally dived under the boat, push it off with your hand, comes off like that. So, and the nice thing about that is it's a genuinely neutral product. There is no biocide at all. It is just a release coating that stops or prevents or allows growth to slide off it.
Yeah, but with the we've now got the option of ultrasonic anti-fouling, haven't we? Which does away with the notion of a coating at all, because the basic principle, I think, is you position a set of transducers inside the hull, and it creates a microscopic film of bubbles, essentially, that prevents the biofilm, that slimy layer of bacteria adhering, and then you don't get the barnacles coming along and the larger bits of growth.
The small print, they nearly always recommend that you use it with some form of traditional anti-fouling.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't tried it on my boat. Some people swear by it. Some people don't reckon it works terribly well. It's really difficult. If you are using it in combination with an anti-fouling product, you've got to ask yourself, well, which is doing the heavy lifting here? Is it the anti-fouling coating, or is it the ultrasonics transducer? I think the jury's still a little bit out on it, but personally, I wouldn't want to rely on that alone. I would want to use it in addition to, in combination with, and maybe that would work very effectively with something like a copper coat, which may not be quite as powerful as a freshly applied soft or copolymer anti-fouling, but it lasts much longer. Ultimately, it's better value because you don't have to reapply it. It's more environmentally friendly, and maybe something like that in combination with an ultrasonics transducer might be the holy grail.
Sounds expensive.
Well, some of them are, but you know, like I said, it doesn't take much to save that money back in terms of fuel consumption. You know, on a big boat like this, or an Azimuth 68, if you get a full layer of fouling on this, you're probably gonna, I don't know about double your fuel bill, but it'll make it much harder to get on the plane. When you are on the plane, you'll be using far more revs and far more fuel. So you really, it's a absolutely vital part. And
no argument there. But what you know, you've been through a few.
Yeah, I've tried,
and you've got your silicon-based one, the F2 Eco hull.
So I'm trying that at the moment. Yeah, I sort of like a little bit curate's egg, you know, good in parts.
In the parts you painted and the parts you didn't, not so good.
Painted.
So maybe don't apply anti-foul.
I would use that on a boat if it was brand new. If you're keeping it in the water, using it all year round, If you get it professionally applied, I think something like Hempel Silic 1 has come out really well in our tests. Looking at that ARX and that International Intersleek, that worked really well. So if you've got a brand new boat or want to sort of start again with a longer term anti-fouling, particularly if it's in a sort of sensitive, environmentally sensitive area, I would definitely consider going one of those. I think in terms of traditional anti-fouling, I've tried a number of different products. I'm a big fan of International Micron. It was originally 66. I think it's now 99, which is a true copolymer. And I found that really effective, even though mine's a sort of 40 knot boat. It just has a very consistent effect. It doesn't sort of go off quickly, and you can paint it on in a couple of layers, so you can effectively get 2 years use out of it. And because it's constantly refreshing and eroding, it maintains that performance. It's not one that works really well for the first 6 weeks and then drops off. Sea-Jet, I've had a lot of success with. I found that very effective too. So, but I think the key piece of advice I always use is it doesn't matter a huge amount which particular product you use. It's worth getting a decent one. Don't go for the cheapest thing and on the rack. But it's all about the application process. So
which
take
is
the time.
Also all about the prep, isn't it?
All about the prep. Make sure you get rid of any sort of flaky anti-fouling from previous years.
God, that's tedious, isn't it?
It's horrible. But pressure wash it really well. Make sure there's no slime or algae, because the key thing is to get a good application. Make sure it adheres. Apply it thick enough. Don't skimp on the amount of paint. Read what the recommended amount is for your given surface area of your boat. Apply it carefully in the right conditions, and all of them will do a useful job. The final 10-20% might be down to which particular product and the whether it's worth going a premium one or not. I would say it is, because I think it makes such a difference to your enjoyment of the boat. But used product, apply it well, apply it regularly. Most recommend doing it every year, at very least every other year. And then after whatever it is, 10, 15, 20 years, you kind of need to strip the whole lot off and start again. Otherwise, you just end up with layers and layers of khaki, flaky, old anti-fouling, lumpy surface. It's going to ruin the performance and efficiency of your boat anyway.
Good stuff, Hugo. Well, on the basis of all of that, every day's a school day, isn't it? But I'm going to go with Copper Coat because it's 10 years at a time. Brilliant.
What, it is worth it. The only downside of Copper Coat, and I probably should have mentioned, is that you don't have any choice about the colour. Because it has copper within that epoxy,
I see.
You get the natural colouring effect of a sort of greeny, browny, bluey and slight sort of variation. Not everybody's going to want that. But if you're more bothered about saving the hassle, the environmental effects, and not having to do it every single year, I know a lot of people who swear by that.
Outstanding advice. Well, as ever, we would love to hear your experiences of anti-fouling and its effectiveness or otherwise on your boat. So please do leave a comment with us. In the meantime, it's time for us to wrap this up. So please do join us again for podcast 12 in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. And apologies if I bored you all to death with anti-fouling, but as you can see, it's a product pretty close to my heart.
Evidently, we love the passion, Hugo.
Yeah, good.
Bring it in episode 12, eh?
I'll do my best.
Top man. Cheers.
See you then.